on that note, I would like to invite my friend Andy Schectman up here to talk about a few things, and just to get him up here so we can drink beers together. Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin. Does anybody know Andy? Have seen him give speeches and talks on YouTube and bought silver from him? The best, right? The best. First of all, thank you for coming. Andy recently moved to the lovely vacation state of Florida where they are free, just like in Texas they're free. Welcome. You have a little tan. Life is good. Half shaven. He looks like a silver dealer, doesn't he?
Life is good, Bix.
First of all, why don't you give us a take? I'm going to ask you about the deal, obviously. Why don't you give us a take on what's the current standing of the physical silver market?
Physical silver market is tenuous, I guess, at best. It is, you look at the U.S. Mint, Silver Eagles, we're buying them back from the public for $10.50 over the price of silver, or they're about 10 1/4, 10 1/2.
That's 50% premium, 50%.
The U.S. Mint has been the model of inefficiency, making selling Eagles really something that I haven't recommended for the better part of 2 years. What we're beginning to see, I think, is a reluctance from the distributors to go. What I've been doing since the very beginning of COVID is I would go deep into my line of credit and I would buy as much future production as I possibly could, and I would buy months in advance and to guarantee future delivery, and it's becoming much harder to do that right now. The distributors are not certain that they're going to get the allocations, and so it's more of a, used to be able, I could lock these things in 3 months in advance. Now it's 30 days in advance. It's starting to get even shorter than that. They want everything up front. I think this market will be defined ultimately by an inability to source product. I've been saying that for a long time. I got a lot of heat for it because people think I'm just trying to, get you in the door and have you buy silver. I've done this since I was 19 years old. For 33 years, I've owned this company, and getting clients has always been my biggest challenge, not getting product. Getting product was easy. In fact, I used to have all the distributors call me and say, well, let me just source my product in your vault. You leave it there. If we need it, we'll pay to have it shipped out. If not, it's there. Those days are long gone. Getting product is becoming incredibly difficult. And if you realize that the U.S. Mint, which has been the model of inefficiency, and the Canadian Mint are the only two major mints in North America, the rest of which are across the Atlantic Ocean, it becomes even more difficult. And with inflation running at record levels all around the world, the mints are starting to have domestic demand that we hadn't seen really ever, and so getting product is becoming harder and harder and harder and harder. And I find it really interesting when you look at the U.S. Mint. We had a record year last year, and the last 2 years have been record, and for everyone in this industry. And 98% of everything we've done has been in silver, literally. I mean, very few transactions in gold on a percentage basis. Less than 2% of everything we've done for 2 years, almost 3. And the U.S. Mint called me a month ago because we're one of only 27 U.S. Mint distributors or resellers. And they said, Andy, by the way, we're cutting production or curtailing production on gold by 50% for the second half of the year. Since then, premiums on gold eagles and buffaloes have gone up almost $100, about $90. And so what you are beginning to see, I think, is the beginning of an environment where getting product will be very difficult. When we talk about this big deal that we did, you see a couple of big deals like that, literally, it would blow up the entire industry. So it's a very small industry, it's very fragile. Getting product, as you all have, unfortunately, the price hasn't performed the way we would have all expected it to. Ultimately, it will. But the gift that Bix has given you all by telling you to buy in early, I think, is having a seat at the party before the music stops. And I think the things that I see coming, most of which are centered around the dollar losing its petro status, with all of the coalition of these countries around the world moving away from the dollar and the BRICS nations, and even Saudi Arabia saying we're going to join BRICS. These are huge, huge deals that I think, like that, everything changes. Rick Rule, I was just at his conference last week, he got up on stage and he said 0.5% of the people in the United States have any metal at all, or he said it differently. He said the entire financial matrix from, I think he said the Harvard Endowment Fund down to Joe Sixpack has a 0.5% allocation of metal in it. And if things start to really get funky in a higher interest rate environment, which I think they will, these wealthy people are waking up and they'll crowd everyone out in 10 seconds. And I was talking to someone here tonight. I don't know where he is. I shared a beer with him when I first got here. And he was talking about his local coin dealer who's reluctant to sell what he has because he'll sell it all in 10 seconds. And no one is selling anything to him, which will, I think, really underscore what this is all about, a market that is predicated on concern, not on greed. People don't care about selling their junk silver back to me. Doesn't matter what I offer them, and that's why you can't find it anymore. When Bix and I were talking about junk silver a few years ago, I would sell it to the public for 45 cents over spot. Now it's almost $9. Things are disappearing, and I think the awakening globally is only making it more and more difficult. So I don't say any of these things to talk my book, not even a little bit. I say it because it's happening, and it's my biggest concern as a business owner. The lack of product and the difficulty getting it is going to define this market, and I think it'll happen pretty soon.
Thank you. That's an excellent update. Okay, I love asking them doozies and questions that spin around in my mind after I've listened to every single one of Andy's YouTube discussions about this deal. So he had a $50 million deal through Bill Holter for American sovereign coins, gold and silver. Originally, she wanted 75% of that in Eagles, if you could find them. Was that right? And 25%.
As much as I could find.
I have a few questions about it. And has anybody heard of this deal and heard me talk about it, other people talk about it? It's a big deal. I mean, it's the largest deal for Eagles that I've heard of for Eagles. I mean, we've all heard of Buffett, grabbing 130 million ounces in the late 90s, and we heard of the Hunt brothers grabbing 110 million ounces in 1980. Most people might not have heard of it because it never hit the news, but J.P. Morgan grabbed, Butler thinks, 1.2 billion ounces when they were rigging the price for 10 years, and that's what these guys are going to trial about and probably will be put away for a while. My question on this deal specifically, knowing the law for Silver Eagles, it says the U.S. Mint, by law, must create silver eagles, not gold, but silver eagles in quantities sufficient to meet demand. That's the word-for-word language. They did change that language when we were bitching about it about 10 years ago so that the Treasury Secretary gets to decide whether or not the mint is meeting demand. Clearly, they're not meeting demand, just especially on this order. The largest order so far, because she said she might have more orders up to like maybe even close to $1 billion worth of silver instead of 50 million. Another part of the U.S. Eagle law says that for bulk orders, the U.S. Mint will offer discounts. Now, paying $12 over spot, I would not call that a discount on Silver Eagles. If this person, this lady, it's a lady billionaire, of course, everybody and their mother was saying, it's this person, and then they're all looking at, there's 86 lady billionaires in the United States of America. But if she orders another big chunk, wouldn't it behoove her and everybody involved if she went right to the mint? I don't know if, I don't think there's a mint law that says you got to go through a distributor.
You can't.
But there is a law that says bulk discounts are required from the mint. And the mint has the capability to make over 50 million ounces per year. They did it in 2011 or 12, something like that.
Maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah, they did 47 million ounces. Now, I know some mint people. I've talked to them on the phone. They are really good workers. It's the politicians that are stopping this process. The mint has amazing efficiency if you take out politicians. The workers at the mint know what the hell they're doing. They create the greatest coin ever. If you ever see a silver eagle, it's the most, second greatest besides the Roto-Rooter coins, obviously. But the most, shall we say, the most popular sovereign coin. What can you do as a participant in this monster deal that should get a discount? You're the one who should be getting the discount, if you ask me. What can you do? Can you run in there with lawyers and say, hey, Janet Yellen or Beatrice Gibson is now the current head of the mint. She has never run a mint in her life. She was put there last year. She's had an HR career for 40 years, though. So if they're trying to wind down the mint, she's the perfect person. What can you do?
Not much. I mean, there's about a dozen, 10 or so primary U.S. mint distributors that all get allocations, and they all get their portion. I mean, there's more to it than meets the eye. I mean, it was done over the July 4th weekend or prior to it. She wanted it done before then. And the truth of it is that I could have done a lot more Silver Eagles. But you have to, there are some distributors in this industry that I wouldn't give my money to no matter what. And I couldn't stomach calling them. I couldn't give them the business. I have reasons to feel that way. So she bought pretty darn close to 900,000 Silver Eagles, and Bill was okay with that and said do the rest in junk silver and in Morgan and Peace silver dollars. So I could have got more, but I was taking allocations from a lot of distributors into August. I had 90,000 of them in stock and sold them, and then I called 2 or 3 people that I've known. Look, I've done this for 33 years. I know the people. There are other people I can work with, but I feel dirty when I do, and I don't trust them. I don't trust them with my clients' names. I don't trust them in doing business with them, and they've given me reason to do it. So there are those that I work with that maybe I pay a few cents more, but I sleep like a baby at night knowing that when I get off the phone with these people, it's done, and there's never any drama. There's never any issue. My client doesn't have to worry about getting phone calls from other dealers or whatever the deal is. So bottom line is this. I'll tell you how it all went down if you want to know.
Yeah.
I got a call from Bill on Friday, and he said to me, we're going to get a $50 million deal. And I'm thinking, no, we're not. Bill's a good friend of mine. He's a cowboy. He's straight up shooter. He's as honest as anyone I've ever known in this industry. I consider him a dear, dear friend. I believed Bill, but I didn't believe the client. Because if you've been in this industry long enough, you hear these stories all the time. Metric ton and this and that, and never happens. So I'm like, okay, Billy, that's fine. So anyways, he says he's going to get a wire Monday. Monday comes 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm heading home, and I said, Billy, we never got a wire. He says, yes, she went to the bank, and she has to go to the main branch. It's almost a 4-hour drive. They won't send the wire from this particular satellite branch. So, okay, fine. So you'll get it tomorrow, he says. So she goes to 4 hours away to another state, stays with her sister, goes into the bank, spends 3 hours in a room. They're trying to talk her out of doing it. She's getting furious. And at the end of all of this ridiculousness, they say, we can't send the wire today because the branch manager's not here. So I call Bill and I say, we didn't get a wire again today. He tells me this story, and he says she's going to threaten with bank regulators tomorrow if it's not there. She's thrown a fit, raised a scene, said they have till tomorrow. So tomorrow comes Wednesday. Now, mind you, she really wanted to do this on Friday, but even if you just count Monday, Tuesday, now Wednesday, we're going on 3 days. This is what she really wanted people to know, is that her money was held hostage. She is a massive depositor in the bank. Wednesday morning comes along, still nothing. It's about 2:30, 3 o'clock. I say, Bill, I haven't received it again. He says she's at the bank right now, and she's throwing a fit. About 5 minutes later, my operations gets a phone call from the bank, and they say, we want to know make sure your wire instructions are what we think they are. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to happen. And then they ask, it's a good thing I didn't take this call. They said, is your company big enough to do the deal? And I'm really thinking, is that any of your business? It's like I went to a bank in Florida the other day and wanted $4,000, and the lady asked me what I'm going to do with it. And it's like, it's just unbelievable. So anyways, the answer was yes, we can handle the order. And by 5 o'clock, we had a wire of $50 million. I never sent the client an invoice. I never sent her an email, nothing. Bill said, fill it with as many Silver Eagles as you can get. She really wants it done by the end of the week. And put the rest in junk silver and in Peace and Morgan dollars, and then we'll do roughly half of it in gold. All of it U.S. I said, you're going to pay a ridiculous premium. He says, that's okay, that's what she wants. So the primary distributors are selling the Silver Eagles to all of the dealers. So I'm an authorized reseller. I'm one of 27. There's 27 authorized resellers that were nominated by one of the 6 or 7 primary distributors. The difference between the two of us is a $50 million line of credit, more or less, to the mint. Everything else is pretty much the same. And they're the ones that are jacking up the premiums, but they're bidding for them at actually ridiculous premiums as well, because the mint is so inefficient. They don't know if they're getting their next allocations, which kind of freaked me out about taking these allocations into August, which I did.
Does the mint charge a premium?
No,
they're not allowed to.
The
right?
mint sells the silver to the primary distributors at about $3 an ounce over spot,
which is about right around where their cost is.
Yeah, and they're selling them to us north of $11 over. So the margins that are not high. And when you think about it, if I'm paying $10.75 to buy Silver Eagles, and this woman calls me and says, "Okay, I'll sell you 100,000 of them," I got $1,750,000 or $1,075,000 that I can't hedge. I got to pay her that. And now if all of a sudden the mint says, "Oh yeah, we got more Eagles for you," and the premiums drop, I'm screwed. And so there's a spread between buy and sell on these premiums because the premiums are so high, and you can't hedge premium. You can hedge metal exposure on COMEX, but you can't hedge the premium. So these premiums are only going to go higher on everything else. I don't know about Eagles. It's been this way for 2 years. It hasn't come back down.
You're the man. Thank you so much. I would like to start taking questions for myself or Andy. Paige will walk around with a microphone. Paige is in red. Raise your hand, Paige. Hi.
Hey, my name is John. I'm over here from San Antonio.
All right.
And for you, Andy, the question is, what is slowing down production? Is it sourcing the material? Is it they can't produce it because they don't have a lack of employees?
That's what they want us to believe. But the interesting thing is, if we talk about like the silver blanks, most of them come from the Sunshine Mint. But the Sunshine Mint makes blanks for other countries too. And I forgot which ones, but I'm going to guess and say the UK, South Africa, Australia. They make the blanks there for those coins. In fact, they even stamp them there in many of the cases. So I've had no problem getting those coins. Whatever the reason is, it makes you wonder. You know, there's a fine line between conspiracy and reality. All I can tell you is that this problem, there's 6 major mints in the world: U.S., Canada, Austria, Australia, South Africa, United Kingdom. None of them have these problems. None of them. But the U.S. And the U.S. is the only one who is curtailing production of gold as well. It's as if they're trying to kind of make it extra difficult for all of us to seek asylum out of the dollar. And here again, am I being conspiratorial or am I not? Is it a production issue? Well, then why isn't it the case with the other mints?
I would say that being U.S. Silver Eagles made by the U.S. Mint is actually the definition of a dollar in the United States. So if we do have a banking collapse and no one can decide what to do, we have a constitution that says that silver and gold eagles are the money of the United States, whereas other countries don't have that. Maybe that is the reason they don't want us smart silver investors getting our hand on all the future money. And I mean, yeah, it's a conspiracy thing, but it's also what the Road to Rooted documents that I discovered on January 1st, 2007, with a hangover on New Year's Day. I opened the pamphlet. I didn't open it because it was online, but there were 3 documents. The first was Wishes and Rainbows. That's the comic book. Second was The Road to Rooted, a teacher's guide. explaining why this comic book is so important. And the third was something called Banking Basics. And if you open that up, there's a picture of a girl cashing in dollar bills for gold coins. This is coming from the Fed Boston, saying basically, and then we'll talk about 9/11. Ruta wrote that in the sand, and then on 9/11/2008 is when the banking collapse happened, that all banks almost shut their doors. We were a half an hour away from that in the United States. People don't know how close we were, but it was all planned. Because I found this document a year and a half before the collapse of 2008, September 11th, 2008. And it makes you thinking, oh my God, they had this plan long before September 11th, 2008. So when is the next one being planned for? And then will we raise our hand and say, give us a CBDC that they can track us and follow our every move? Will we go back to the US dollar that they use and abuse? Will we go to the NESRA Act, the GESRA Act, the quantum financial system? Any of those would not work. It takes deciders. You need someone to decide, this is what you're going to do. There will be nobody who has that kind of clout, especially in banking and especially in government. So what do? It's already on the books. Gold and Silver Eagles does money. It's already there. That's my take. It's the conspiracy take, too.
No, I love it. And just so to your point, after doing this deal, a lot of the people in the industry who I've met throughout the years, they're calling me, these big wholesalers. I talked to one of them today. It's one of the primary distributors, and their name is Stone. And they're a massive company, and mostly in hedging and in scrap all around the world. And I asked the guy, how many Eagles are you getting in allocations? He says 30,000 or so every 2 weeks. So this is one of the primary distributors that sells to everyone who buys Silver Eagles. And it's not just in North America. They sell Silver Eagles around the globe. If one of them's getting 30,000 every 2 weeks and this woman bought 900,000, do the math. It's not plentiful. It's not. And it's hard to come by. And so I don't know. It's a great mystery as to why the hell they're doing this. It's one of the few parts of the government that's profitable. But there's no question that they're limiting production of things that people want.
Illegally. All right.
Contracts, though, they obviously, you've probably asked them the question. Like the people that work there.
They're not going to tell me. They're not going to tell me anything.
I asked.
They don't tell me.
They didn't tell me.
Even when I was told by people on the inside that the mint was going to shut down in between March or April to July, and I said this publicly, I got a ton of shit for it because I was told by someone who knows that they're going to shut down. And so Chris Marcus calls the U.S. Mint and he recorded it. No, we're not going to shut down, Mr. Marcus. They shut down. We didn't get squat for 4 months. Nothing.
Or they kept making coins. They just never released them to anybody,
So
and we're saving them for something else.
So they're not giving us the full scoop.
Yeah.